Howdy, welcome.
What's up?
How are you today?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I woke up like an hour ago.
Oh, rad. That's pretty nice.
Yep.
What's the plan for today?
Uh,
You got anything good going on after this?
yeah, I'm gonna go play some tennis with friends afterwards.
Nice. Sorry I missed last week. I had some other things going on during the day I had to take care of. But
Yeah, you're good. It's cool.
I'm definitely super excited for Exodus. This is gonna be
I watched a few videos on it, so I'm not going in blind.
awesome. Yeah, you'll have some things to teach me. I'm excited to hear all the different takes on it. I know this is a popular book.
Yep.
Before we start, I guess I don't know if we went over the study Bible introduction before we left with Genesis, but I want to hit a couple things that they said in here anyway. Um, I know that we've already gone over the authorship generally ascribed to Moses. Um, but there are some contradictions in here, and this one generally goes back to the same J, E, D, and P, the four sources that we've been talking about through Genesis. So that's going to be about the same as far as who the authors were and when they were.
Okay.
The historical context, it says the diverse materials in Exodus are situated within a storyline describing the departure of a group of oppressed people from Egypt to a sacred mountain in Sinai where they enter into a covenant with the God they believed rescued them. At God's direction, they construct a portable shrine for their deity before continuing their journey. The historicity of that story has been questioned, partly because the sources comprising Exodus date from many centuries after the events they purport to describe. The events themselves, which involve the escape of a component of Pharaoh's workforce, the disruption of Egyptian agriculture, and the loss of many Egyptian lives, are not mentioned in Egyptian sources, although the Egyptians would not necessarily record such events. Similarly, the larger than life leader Moses is not mentioned in contemporaneous non biblical sources, and no trace of a large group of people moving across the Sinai Peninsula has been found by archaeological surveys or excavations. Moreover, virtually none of the places mentioned in Exodus, including the Holy Mountain, can be identified with sites discovered in Sinai or with names known for other sources. In addition, features of the story, such as signs and wonders performed in Egypt and the exceedingly large number of people said to have left Egypt, defy credibility. Finally, the Exodus story culminates in Joshua with the conquest of the land of Israel, and here too the archaeological record does not corroborate the main biblical narrative. Despite these problems, the basic storyline is supported by evidence from Egyptian and other sources. Foreigners from Western Asia, called Asiatics in Egyptian documents, periodically did migrate to Egypt, especially during times of famine. Others were taken to Egypt as military captives or were forcibly sent there as human tribute by Canaanite rulers. Moreover, many of these groups, including those who had voluntarily entered Egypt, were vulnerable to conscription for state projects. This pattern was especially strong toward the end of the Late Bronze Age, 1400 to 1200 BCE, and although virtually all of the foreigners in Egypt were assimilated into local culture, there is at least one documented instance of several workers escaping into the Sinai wilderness. Thus, the overall pattern of descent into Egypt, followed by servitude and escape, is based on information in ancient documents. In addition, the end of the Late Bronze Age, by which time the Israelites would have left Egypt, coincides with the date of inscriptional evidence. A stele erected by the pharaoh Merneptah, I think. I think I've heard it that way, Merneptah, circa 1200 BCE, contains the first mention of Israel outside of the Bible for a people called Israel in the land of Canaan. So, a plausible reconstruction is that a relatively small group of people, descendants of Western Asiatics who had entered Egypt generations before, managed to escape from servitude. So improbable was such an event that the people, or their leader, attributed it to a miraculous divine intervention. This experience bonded them in their loyalty to the deity and gave them a collective identity. This story was originally oral and developed like many other oral tales. Upon entering Canaan, they told their story and spread word about their unusual Savior, God, Yahweh, a name perhaps learned from the Midianites with whom they interacted. Their stories about securing freedom are collective memories meant to recreate for others the intense emotional experience of liberation, rather than to record accurate details of their flight. As time passed, major features of Israelite culture, such as the main agricultural festivals, especially Passover, the custom of redeeming firstborn males, the idea of a people in covenant relationship with God, prophets as the transmitters of God's word, the Sabbath, the construction of central shrine as God's earthly abode, a sacrificial system administered by the priests, were assimilated into the core Exodus story, which gives them their emotional power and authority. This commemoration of the past makes the experience of the few a collective story, the very identity of the community taking shape and expanding in the highlands of Canaan, and later struggling to survive the traumas of division and exile. I like that reconstruction they give at the end.
Yeah, it's just crazy how different, like, the true events probably were compared to, the narrative.
Right, yeah.
Some
And
people say, sticking to what the Bible actually says.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which Bible? That's always my first question. The next little intro here says literary history. The components of the book of Exodus have been so skillfully woven together that it is no longer possible to reconstruct the process by which they emerged or were ultimately combined. The overall story comprises elements of both the J source, which may have its origin in the monarchy during the 10th century and then circulated to the southern kingdom, and the E source, formed and circulated in the northern kingdom. Some Deuteronomic elements can also be identified. It is even possible that all three, J, E, and D, drew from a common commemorative tradition but developed it in their own particular ways. A strong priestly component is present not only in the passages dealing with sanctuary priests and rituals, but also several points in the storyline, notably the accounts of the marvels in Egypt and deliverance at the sea. The book can be subdivided into thematic literary units. Part 1, Israel in and out of Egypt. Part 2, Sinai and the Covenant. And Part 3, Sanctuary and the New Covenant. So
What are those different parts based on?
I
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Oh no, you're good. It just the structure, I guess, it's kind of trying to describe the literary units here. So the Israel in and out of Egypt, part 1 is chapter 1 through 15, and it says here God sees Israelites suffering in chapters 1 and 2. Moses becomes his spokesperson through chapter 7, and a series of marvels through chapter 10 and a plague up through chapter 13 culminate in the escape of the people. Part 2 is Sinai and the Covenant, chapters 15 to 24. After traveling through the wilderness, the Israelites arrive at Sinai, where they experience theophany, a divine appearance, and receive the covenant. Part 3 is the Sanctuary and New Covenant, an episode of apostasy followed by covenant renewal, separates instructions for building the sanctuary, chapters 25 to 31, from the accounts of its construction, chapters 35 to 40. So I guess this is just kind of one of the many ways to break it out into parts.
Yeah, the reason I asked was because I watched a video on it, I think, after the last Bible study, and the guy, he split it into 2 parts, basically just down the middle, first half and the second half.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm sure you could break it up into a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
Do you remember who you were watching, what video that was?
Yeah, I could probably find it. It was one of the first videos I found when I searched up Exodus.
Yeah.
Exodus, a quick overview, whiteboard Bible study.
Cool. I think I've seen a whiteboard Bible study before, actually. If it's the same guy, no telling, but... Welcome, guys. I see Awesome Aim and the Doubter jumped in, too. So they also have an interpretation here saying that it's arguably the most important book in the Hebrew Bible. It presents an explanation of God's name, Yahweh, and central biblical ideas about God, especially that God responds to and saves people who are suffering. Major institutions of ancient Israel, such as prophecy, covenant, community regulations, a shrine, festival, sacrifice, and the Sabbath, are grounded in the narrative of liberation. Exodus likely struck a resonant chord for Judeans' experienced defeat in exile in the 6th century, and later, for them, maintaining and restoring the institutions set forth in Exodus contributed to their emerging identity and to their very survival as a dispersed people. So, yeah, I like the introduction. Excited to get through this one. All the Moses stuff is fun. Lots of plagues and shit. All right. Y'all ready, or you got anything else before we get started?
I posted a link in the Bible study channel. It has an online version of the Bible that we're reading, so if you guys want to follow along on there.
All right. These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each with his household. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali. Gad and Asher. The total number of people born to Egypt was 70. Joseph was already in Egypt. Then Joseph died, and all his brothers, and that whole generation. But the Israelites were fruitful and prolific. They multiplied and grew exceedingly strong, so that the land was filled with them. Now a new king arose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. He said to his people, "Look, the Israelite people are more numerous and more powerful than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, or they will increase in the event of war, join our enemies, and fight against us and escape from the land." Therefore they set taskmasters over them to oppress them with forced labor. They built supply cities, Pithom and Ramses, for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread, so the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. The Egyptians became ruthless in imposing tasks on the Israelites and made their lives bitter and hard with hard service in mortar and brick and in every kind of field labor. They were ruthless in all the tasks that they imposed on them. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shiphrah and the other Puah, "When you act as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a boy, kill him, but if it is a girl, she shall live." But the midwives feared God. They did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but they let the boys live. So the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this, and allowed the boys to live?" The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwife comes to them." So God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and became strong. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families. The Pharaoh commanded all his people, "Every boy that is born to the Hebrews you shall throw into the Nile, but you shall let every girl live." Starting off with a bang. As mentioned, the Israel in and out of Egypt. The Israelites are oppressed in Egypt, but they escape from Pharaoh's control through the intervention of their God, whose identity is revealed to their heroic leader Moses, who then carries God's directives to secure their release. In chapters 1 to 22, the oppression of the Israelites, the introductory chapter connects Exodus with Genesis and serves as a prologue to the story of deliverance by describing how the Israelites become oppressed in fulfillment of Genesis 15. Verses 1 to 7, a brief retelling of the account of Genesis 46 of Jacob's family relocating to Egypt. Israel here refers to patriarch Jacob. 2 to 4, the sons of Jacob, the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel, are listed in groups according to their mothers. The 6 sons of Leah, Rachel's second son, 2 of each handmaids, and Rachel's firstborn Joseph, the one with a position of power in the Egyptian court. Because the number 7 and its multiples symbolize totality, the notion of 70 descendants of Jacob signifies that all Israel is present. I guess I don't have to read all of these notes. I can kind of skim them a little bit and see what pops out, but they do add a little bit of context. But so far it all makes sense, what's going on with the Israelite people in Egypt. They're just living in their own area, multiplying and becoming so populous that the Pharaoh takes note of their quantity.
Hmm.
All right, ready for chapter 2?
Yep.
Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a fine boy, she hid him 3 months. When she could hide him no more, she got a papyrus basket for him and plastered it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds on the bank of the river. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. The daughter of the Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, while her attendants walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to bring it. When she opened it and saw the child, he was crying, and she took pity on him. "This must be one of the Hebrews' children," she said. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Yes." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and she took him as her son. She named him Moses because she said, "I drew him out of the water." One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to his people and saw their forced labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his kinfolk. He looked this way and that, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. When he went out the next day, he saw 2 Hebrews fighting, and he said to the one who was in the wrong, "Why do you strike your fellow Hebrew?" He answered, Who made you a ruler and judge over us? Do you mean to kill me as you did the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, "Surely this thing is known." When Pharaoh heard of it, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh. He settled in the land of Midian and sat down by a well. The priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came to draw water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But some shepherds came and drove them away. Moses got up and came to their defense and watered their flock. When they returned to their father Reuel, he said, "How is it that you have come back so soon today?" They said, "An Egyptian helped us against the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." He said to his daughters, "Where is he? Why did you leave the man? Invite him to break bread." Moses agreed to stay with the man. He gave Moses his daughter Zipporah in marriage. She bore a son, and he named him Gershom, for he said, "I have been an alien residing in a foreign land." After a long time, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned under their slavery and cried out. Out of the slavery, their cry for help rose up to God. God heard the groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God looked upon the Israelites, and God took notice of them. End of chapter 2. The emergence of Moses. As in the birth legends of the heroic figures in ancient Near East literature, the miraculous rescue of the doomed infant Moses signifies that he is destined for greatness. Yeah, just stuff about, I guess there's 7 daughters, making a total of 12 female figures, and the significance of the 7. Different things about the judges. One of Moses' role as a ruler or administrator would have been a judge. Alright, y'all ready for chapter 3? Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led his flock beyond the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush. He looked, and the bush was blazing, yet it was not consumed. Then Moses said, "I must turn aside and look at this great sight, and see why the bush is not burned up." When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses, and he said, Here I am. Then he said, Come no closer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. He said further, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. When the Lord said, I have observed the misery of my people who are in Egypt. I have heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. Indeed, I know their sufferings, and I have come down to deliver them from the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the country of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. The cry of the Israelites has now come to me. I have also seen how the Egyptians oppress them. So come, I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign for you that it is I who sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall worship God on this mountain. But Moses said to God, If I come to the Israelites and say to them, The God of your ancestors has sent me to you, and they ask me, What is his name? What am I to say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. He said further, Thus I shall say to the Israelites, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, Thus you shall say to the Israelites, The Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever. And this is my title for all generations. Go and assemble the elders of Israel, and say to them, The Lord, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have given heed to you and to what has been done to you in Egypt. I declare that I will bring you up out of the misery of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. They will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Egypt and say to him, The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. Let us now go a 3 days' journey to the wilderness, so that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. I know, however, that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders that I will perform in it. After that he will let you go. I will bring this people into such favor with the Egyptians that when you go, you will not go empty-handed. Each woman shall ask her neighbor and any woman living in the neighbor's house for jewelry of silver and of gold, and clothing, and you shall put them on your sons and your daughters, and so you shall plunder the Egyptians. Very nice. Moses' call and mission. The God of the ancestors appears to Moses in Midian, reveals the divine name, and commissions him to deliver his people. The term prophet is not used for Moses in Exodus, but this call narrative presents him as one. Verse 1 to 10, theophany, divine revelation at the bush. Okay, that's the, bush, burning bush part. What do y'all think?
I was thinking it was interesting, that he's talking about plundering the Egyptians, because that's what a lot of people say, that the God of the Old Testament is a lot more, ruthless than the God of the New Testament.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of that coming up. I think that this is just the tip. But yeah, it's funny that he says that I'm going to show such force that when you turn, you can ask your neighbors to give you all of their jewelry, and you should put it on all your sons and plunder the Egyptians. Like you said,
Yeah.
It's like a last fuck you to the Egyptians on your way out. I guess I've watched too many movies. The way that I remember this all rolling out was like, I don't know. It was it took longer. We're only three chapters in, and we've already got to the burning bush. You know, I felt like
Yeah.
Moses lived in Egypt as a Pharaoh's son for a lot longer. I guess I'm thinking of Prince of Egypt, the Disney movie. Yeah, and the burning bush, that seems like such a side note, whereas it's like a main story point, the way I remember it in Bible study.
Interesting.
I guess there are also some notes in here that, like it says, so I was wondering, it said in our notes that God reveals his name here, but I didn't hear him say Yahweh anywhere in there. But it says down here in the notes, the word Lord, when spelled with capital letters, stands for the divine name Yahweh, which is here connected with the verb Hayah, or to be. So I guess Lord is the name that was revealed here.
Okay.
Anything coming up from your videos that you watched, or was that more of an overview thing that you...
More of just an overview, so I knew the general happenings of Exodus. I can't remember anything too specific, but
Totally. Yeah, like I said, I just remember like the Prince of Egypt stuff, like him being rescued out of the reed, and I guess he's still got to go part the Red Sea. So we'll get there pretty soon, I'm sure.
is that in Exodus?
I'm sure it is, yeah, because Exodus is they're leaving Egypt,
Okay.
and that's part of the story. I believe.
Yeah, I have no idea. Most of this is new for me.
Oh yeah, even more fun. Like,
Yep.
I've heard all of this before. Just I know that I've read also, just in different contexts. I wasn't paying as much attention, you know.
Yeah.
But let's see. Anything else before we go on to 4?
I'm good.
All right. Then Moses answered, "But suppose they do not believe me or listen to me, but say, 'The Lord did not appear to you.' The Lord said to him, 'What is that in your hand?' He said, 'A staff.' And he said, 'Throw it on the ground.' So he threw the staff on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses drew back from it. Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Reach out your hand and seize it by the tail.' So he reached out his hand and grasped it, and it became a staff in his hand, so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you." Again the Lord said to him, "Put your hand inside your cloak." He put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, his hand was leprous, as white as snow. Then God said, "Put your hand back into your cloak." So he put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his body. If they will not believe you or heed the first sign, they may believe the second sign. If they will not believe even these 2 signs, or heed you, you shall take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground, and the water that you shall take from the Nile will become blood on the dry ground. But Moses said to the Lord, "Oh, my Lord, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor even now that you have spoken to your servant. But I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." Then the Lord said to him, "Who gives speech to mortals? Who makes them mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you are to speak." But he said, "Oh, my Lord, please send someone else." Then the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, "What of your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know that he can speak fluently. Even now he is coming out to meet you. And when he sees you, his heart will be glad. You shall speak to him and put the words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. He indeed shall speak for you to the people. He shall serve as a mouth for you, and you shall serve as God for him. Take in your hand this staff with which you shall perform the signs." Moses went back to his father-in-law and Jethro and said to him, "Please let me go back to my kindred in Egypt and see whether they are still living." And Jethro said to Moses, "Go in peace." The Lord said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all those who were seeking your life are dead." So Moses took his wife and his sons, put them on a donkey, and went back to the land of Egypt. And Moses carried the staff of God in his hand. The Lord said to Moses, "When you go back to Egypt, see that you perform before the Pharaoh all the wonders that I have put in your power. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, 'Thus says the Lord, Israel is my firstborn son. I said to you, let my son go that he may worship me. But you refused to let him go. Now I will kill your firstborn son.' On the way, at a place where they spent the night, the Lord met him and tried to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint and cut off the son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, 'Truly you are a rich bridegroom of blood to me.' So he let him alone. It was then she said, 'A bridegroom of blood by circumcision.'" Wait, I gotta back up and read that part again.
Yeah, wait, so God tried to kill Moses?
On the way, at a place where they spent the night, the Lord met and tried to kill him. Let's see what my notes say. Verse 24. In this enigmatic episode, God attacks Moses for reasons that are unclear. Moses again is saved by a woman, his wife Zipporah. In performing her son's circumcision, she may be carrying out a female role in Midianite and Israelite culture. I don't understand what the hell we just read. And then verse 25, it says feet are a euphemism for genitals. I guess marriage and circumcision, I guess you have to be circumcised to get married into the... I don't know what that has to do with our story currently, but...
Yeah, it's a really weird little side note there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is bizarre. Okay, I guess even the notes don't seem to really cover it for me well enough, but we'll carry on. Verse 27. The Lord said to Aaron, "Go into the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went, and he met him at the mountain of God and kissed him. Moses told Aaron all the words of the Lord with which he had sent him, and all the signs with which he had charged him. Then Moses and Aaron went and assembled all the elders of the Israelites. Aaron spoke all the words that the Lord had spoken to Moses, and performed the signs in the sight of the people. The people believed, and when they heard that the Lord had given heed to the Israelites, and that he had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshipped.
So I was a little confused about how Moses is supposed to show that like he actually talked to God. So is he able to like turn his hand white when he puts it into the cloak?
Yeah,
Because it would be kind of weird. Okay, it's a
that's the way I
reoccurring
understood
thing.
it, yeah, and that he could toss his staff down on the ground and it would become a snake.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Because I was thinking, because he turned his hand white, but then it turned back to normal,
Yeah.
and the snake, you know, it's just a staff that maybe looks like a snake or whatever, and I was like, yeah, that'd be convincing, huh?
Yeah. Especially to people wanting to be convinced to leave the Egyptian servitude or what have you. He also apparently has a third one that the Lord told him was that he could pull water out of the Nile and put it on the ground and it would turn to blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll get to see all of those coming up. He's got to flex this prophet thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have much in the notes that we didn't already skim when we were reading that other part. So this coming up now, I'm going to go ahead and read ahead in our notes a little bit that it says that Moses and Aaron are going to have their first encounter with Pharaoh. They request 3-day leave, not permanent freedom. Um, and then Pharaoh employs strategies now also punitive to deal with the burgeoning Israelite population. So I guess it's going to get more violent. Go ahead. You have something?
I was gonna say I love violence.
Especially biblical violence.
Yeah.
About to get biblical. Alright, chapter 5. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go, so that they may celebrate a festival to me in the wilderness." But Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should heed him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." Then they said, "The God of the Hebrews has revealed himself to us. Let us go a 3 days' journey into the wilderness to sacrifice to the Lord our God, or he will fall upon us with pestilence or sword." But the king of Egypt said to them, "Moses and Aaron, why are you taking the people away from their work? Go to your labors." Pharaoh continued, "Now they are more numerous than the people of the land, and yet you want them to stop working?" That same day, Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters of the people, as well as their supervisors, "You shall no longer give the people straw to make bricks, as before. Let them go and gather the straw for themselves. But you shall require of them the same quantity of bricks as they have made previously. Do not diminish it, for they are lazy. That is why they cry, 'Let us go and offer sacrifice to our God.' Let heavier work be laid on them. Then they will labor at it and pay no attention to deceptive words." So the taskmasters and supervisors of the people went out and said to the people, "Thus says Pharaoh, I will not give you straw. Go and get straw yourselves, wherever you can find it. But your work will not be lessened in the least." So the people scattered throughout the land of Egypt to gather stubble for straw. The taskmasters were urgent, saying, "Complete your work, the same daily assignments as when you were given straw." And the supervisors of the Israelites, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had set over them, were beaten and were asked, "Why did you not finish the required quantities of bricks yesterday and today, as you did before?" Then the Israelite supervisors came to Pharaoh and cried, "Why do you treat servants like this? No straw is given to your servants, yet they say, 'Make bricks.' Look how your servants are beaten. You are unjust to your own people." He said, "You are lazy, lazy. That is why you say, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord.' Go now and work, for no straw shall be given you, but you shall still deliver the same number of bricks." The Israelite supervisors saw that they were in trouble when they were told, "You shall not lessen your daily number of bricks." As they left Pharaoh, they came up upon Moses and Aaron, who were waiting to meet them. They said to them, "The Lord look upon you and judge. You have brought us into bad odor with Pharaoh and his officials, and have put a sword in their hand to kill us." Then Moses turned again to the Lord and said, "Oh, Lord, why have you mistreated this people? Why did you ever send me? Since I first came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has mistreated his people, and you have done nothing at all to deliver your people." Yeah, what the fuck, God? And you said
It's so weird. He just doesn't act like a god. Like, just for being this dude that created, the universe, the world, he's helping his chosen people right now. Like, he just doesn't do god things. He does weird little insignificant things.
Yeah, and he promised he was going to speak through Moses and make shit happen. Like, where were you,
Yeah.
God? You were supposed to be talking through me. And, of course, he did say that he was going to harden Pharaoh's heart and not. Uh,
It's just so weird though, like why he needs to do that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Why are we making these conversations? You're just playing with us, right? It's
Yeah.
make uh, make believe, like my daughter does, putting words in our toys' mouths. All right, chapter 6. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Indeed, by a mighty hand he will let them go. By a mighty hand he will drive them out of his land." God also spoke to Moses and said to him, "I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name, the Lord, I did not make myself known to them. I also established my covenant with them, to give them the land of Canaan, the land in which they resided as aliens. I have also heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians are holding as slaves, and I have remembered my covenant. Say, therefore, to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will free you from the burdens of the Egyptians, and deliver you from slavery to them. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment. I will take you as my people, and I will be your God. You shall know that I am the Lord your God, who has freed you from the burdens of the Egyptians. I will bring you into the land that I swore to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will give it to you for a possession. I am the Lord. Moses told this to the Israelites, but they would not listen to Moses because of their broken spirit and their cruel slavery. Then the Lord spoke to Moses. Go and tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that the Israelites go out of this land. But Moses spoke to the Lord, the Israelites have not listened to me. How then shall Pharaoh listen to me, poor speaker that I am? Thus the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, and gave them orders regarding the Israelites and Pharaoh, king of Egypt, charging them to free the Israelites from the land of Egypt. The following are the heads of the ancestral houses. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. These are the families of Reuben. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Zerkin, Joar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. These are the families of Simeon. The following are the names of the sons of Levi according to their genealogies. Gershon, Kohath, and Merari, and the length of Levi's life was 137 years. The sons of Gershon, Libni, and Shimei, and by their families. The sons of Kohan, Amram, Ijar, Hebron, and Uziel, and the length of Kohath's life was 133 years. The sons of Merari, Mali, and Mushi. These are the families of the Levites according to their genealogies. Amram married Jochebed, his father's sister, and she bore him Aaron and Moses. And the length of Amram's life was 137 years. The sons of Izhar, Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. The sons of Iziel, Mishael, Elsaphan, and Sithri. Aaron married Elisheba, daughter of Aminadab and sister of Nahshon, and she bore Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, the sons of Korah, Asir, Elkanah, and Abiashaph. These are the families of the Korahites. Aaron's son Eleazar married one of the daughters of Putiel, and she bore him Phinehas. These are the heads of the ancestral houses of the Levites by their families. It was the same Aaron and Moses to whom the Lord said, Bring the Israelites out of the land of Egypt company by company. It is they who spoke to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring the Israelites out of Egypt, the same Moses and Aaron. On the day that the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, he said to them, I am the Lord. Tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that I am speaking to you. But Moses said in the Lord's presence, Since I am a poor speaker, why would Pharaoh listen to me? Wow, that was a mouthful.
Yep. I don't get what's the significance in making everybody live over 100 years? It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I don't know. I'm sure there's some significance in the Old Testament also, but I know that for Jesus, he was a certain number of generations between Abraham and David, and then a certain number of generations between David and Jesus, right? I think it's 14 generations.
I have no idea.
So I think it might have something to do with that.
To make it line up properly.
Yeah, but then specifically here, where it's naming all of these Levite families, I think the Levites were the priests in the original Israelite kingdom in 700 or what have you BCE. So right here, they're like naming their own families, trying to say, we are the priests. I think this is probably a priestly chapter.
Yeah, I don't know. You just figure that anybody reading this, do they're like, oh yeah, yeah, they lived to 137 years. Yep, that makes sense.
The other thing I think it might put them on par with the other patriarchs. It's like to give them the significance of Abraham and say that he was chosen among God. Only people that are chosen among God live to 130, so he must have lived to 130, type of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. Noah lived like way longer, didn't he? Live like multiple hundreds of years? Or am
Yeah,
I
I think
misremembering?
Methuselah lived something like 700 years. Um, but then something happened, and God said that He had to set the limit on the life of a human being to like 150 years.
We're getting pretty close.
Yeah. All right. We got anything else for that placeholder chapter? That was a tough one.
Yeah.
All right, we're about to get to the plagues.
Yeah, baby.
Chapters 7 through 10, the 9 marvels. The designation 10 plagues is not used in the Bible. Fewer than 10 catastrophes appear in the two Psalms that mention them, Psalm 78 and Psalm 105. The narrative in this book of Exodus likely draws from several sources to form a three-triad pattern totaling 9 marvels. Pharaoh receives a warning in the morning for the first, fourth, and seventh marvels. Pharaoh receives a warning, time unspecified, for the second, fifth, and eighth ones, and the third, sixth, and ninth happen unannounced. Each triad has the same sequence, an arrangement suggesting that 9 is the appropriate number, with the slaying of the firstborn as a separate 10th climactic event. The noun plague appears only for the 10th calamity, the death of the firstborn. Interesting. Alrighty. The Lord said to Moses, "See, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. You shall speak all that I command you, and your brother Aaron shall tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of this land. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will multiply my signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. When Pharaoh does not listen to you, I will lay my hand upon Egypt and bring my people, the Israelites, company by company, out of the land of Egypt by great acts of judgment. The Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out from among them." Moses and Aaron did so. They did just as the Lord commanded them. Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "When Pharaoh says to you, 'Perform a wonder,' then you shall say to Aaron, 'Take your staff and throw it down before the Pharaoh, and it will become a snake.'" So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and did as the Lord had commanded. Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh and his officials, and it became a snake. Then Pharaoh summoned his wise men and the sorcerers, and they also, the Egyptians of Egypt, did the same by their secret arts. Each one threw down their staff, and they became snakes. But Aaron's staff swallowed up theirs. Still Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go. Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is going out to the water. Stand by at the river bank to meet him, and take in your hand the staff that was turned into a snake. Say to him, 'The Lord, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to say, let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness. But until now you have not listened. Thus says the Lord, by this you shall know that I am the Lord. See, with the staff that is in my hand I will strike the water that is in the Nile, and it shall be turned to blood. The fish in the river shall die, and the river shall itself sink, and the Egyptians shall be unable to drink water from the Nile.' The Lord said to Moses, 'Say to Aaron, take your staff and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over its rivers, its canals, and its ponds, and all its pools of water, so that they may become blood. And there shall be blood throughout the whole land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone.' Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded. In the sight of Pharaoh and his officials, he lifted up the staff and struck the water in the river. And all the water in the river was turned into blood, and the fish in the river died, and the river stank, so the Egyptians could not drink its water, and there was blood throughout the whole land of Egypt. But the magicians of Egypt did the same by their secret arts. So Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he would not listen to them, as the Lord had said. Pharaoh turned and went into his house, and he did did not take even this to his heart. And all the Egyptians had dug all along the Nile for water to drink, but they could not drink the water of the river. 7 days passed, and the river after the Lord had struck the Nile. What's funny to me is all the other magicians can do the same tricks.
I know. I'm loving this or the dark magic or whatever. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, the
He's like-
sorcerers. Yeah.
God's like, do this. It'll prove to them undoubtedly that you are my prophet. And then they're
Yeah.
like, dude, we can do the same thing. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to me. Why wouldn't the god know that that was going to be the case? Pick something that they've never seen before.
Yeah. Turn the staff into 2 snakes.
Yeah. And it's like, but God's snake ate the other snakes. Like, who gives a shit? Everybody has snakes.
I think it's funny that it said that after he turned the water into blood, the magicians did the same too. It's like
Yeah.
he already turned all the water into blood. What water was left? If there was any water left, wouldn't they want to drink it? Why would they turn it into blood?
Exactly, yeah. Why don't you undo the trick?
Yeah, exactly. It's only a one-way street.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody can turn it into blood. How do you turn it out of it?
Yeah, that's what God should have done.
Oh, let's see. Preface to the Marvels. The introduction to the Marvels, like 4 to 5, features a staff turning into a snake in competition with the Egyptian magicians. Aaron, not Moses, has the leading role in this episode and in the first 3 Marvels. Verse 11, magicians appear for the first time. The Hebrew term is derived from the Egyptian word denoting a priestly official. Secret arts refer to spells or incantations that the Egyptians used, whereas Aaron simply casts his staff down. Hardin appears in the preface, anticipates Pharaoh's response to every marvel. 7:14, the first 3 marvels. Aaron's staff is the instrument of divine power. First marvel, bloody waters. This marvel, like some others, combines 2 traditions. In one, Moses' action pollutes the Nile only, while in another, Aaron turns all Egyptian water into blood. The magicians can duplicate this calamity, but again, they must use spells. What do you think Moses used? Like, if they can use spells, what difference does it make what Moses used?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get some more plagues going on. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, let my people go, so that they may worship me. If you refuse to let them go, I will plague your whole country with frogs. The river shall swarm with frogs. They shall come up into your palace, into your bedchamber, and into your bed, and into the houses of your officials and of your people, and into your ovens and your kneading bowls. The frogs shall come up on you and on your people and on all of your officials.' And the Lord said to Moses, 'Say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with the staff over the rivers and canals and pools, and make frogs come up on the land of Egypt.' So Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same thing with their secret arts, and brought frogs up on the land of Egypt.
Oh.
Then Pharaoh called to Moses and Aaron and said, 'Pray to the Lord, and take away the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people go to sacrifice to the Lord.' Moses said to Pharaoh, 'Kindly tell me when I am to pray for you and for your officials and for your people, that the frogs may be removed from you and your houses and be left only in the Nile.' And he said, 'Tomorrow.' Moses said, 'As you say, so that you may know that there is no one like the Lord our God. The frogs shall leave you and your people and your officials and your people. They shall be left only in the Nile.' Then Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried out to the Lord concerning the frogs that he had brought upon Pharaoh. And the Lord did as Moses requested. The frogs died in the houses, the courtyards, and fields, and they gathered them together in heaps, and the land stank. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your staff and strike the dust of the earth, so that it may become gnats throughout the whole land of Egypt." And they did so. Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff and struck the dust of the earth, and gnats came on humans and animals alike. All the dust of the earth turned into gnats throughout the whole land of Egypt. The magicians tried to produce gnats by their secret arts, but they could not. There were gnats on both humans and animals, and the magician said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had said. Then the Lord said to Moses,
Does that make gnats like holy animals or holy bugs? Since
Only
the
God
magicians,
Yeah.
yeah, the magicians, they can make snake staffs, they can turn water into blood, they can make frogs, but gnats, nope, only God can do that.
Well, I was just thinking if you have piles and piles of dead frogs all in the streets, you're probably going to have some gnat issues. Gnats and flies and other carrion eaters. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Rise early in the morning and present yourself before Pharaoh, as he goes out to the water, and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, let my people go, so that they may worship me. For if you will not let my people go, I will send swarms of flies onto you. Your officials and your people and your houses and the houses of the Egyptians shall be filled with swarms of flies, so also the land where they live. But on the day I will set apart the land of Goshen where my people live, so that no swarms of flies shall be there. And you may know that I am the Lord in this land. Thus I will make a distinction between my people and your people. This sign shall appear tomorrow.'" The Lord did so, and a swarm of flies came into the house of Pharaoh and into the officials' houses, and in all of Egypt was ruined because of the flies. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go sacrifice to your God within the land." But Moses said, "It would not be right to do so, for the sacrifices that we offer to the Lord our God are offensive to the Egyptians. If we offer in the sight of the Egyptian sacrifices that are offensive to them, will they not stone us? We must go a 3 days' journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God as he commands us." So Pharaoh said, "I will let you go to sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness, provided you do not go very far away. Pray for me." Then Moses said, "As soon as I leave you, I will pray to the Lord that the swarms of flies will depart tomorrow from Pharaoh, from his officials, from his people. Only do not let Pharaoh again deal falsely by not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord." So Moses went out from Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. And the Lord did as Moses asked. He removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his officials, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh hardened his heart this time also, and would not let the people go.
I love where God's priority is. He just wants his people to pray and sacrifice and worship to him.
Yeah.
That's all he's doing this for.
That was a pretty long one.
Interesting, though.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've noticed here is that God keeps telling Moses to work through Aaron, which I don't think I picked up before. I thought Moses was performing all of these kind of on his own, but I guess Aaron is right there with him the whole time, performing just as many miracles if it's looked at objectively. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go so that they will worship me. For if you refuse to let them go and still hold them, the hand of the Lord will strike a deadly pestilence in your livestock in the field, the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the herds, and the flocks. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, so that nothing shall die of all that belongs to the Israelites.' The Lord set a time, saying, 'Tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land.' And on the next day the Lord did so. All the livestock of the Egyptians died, but of the livestock of the Israelites not one died. Pharaoh inquired and found that not one of the livestock of the Israelites was dead, but the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the people go. Yeah, I can't imagine why he's upset. Then, then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Take handfuls of soot from the kiln, and let Moses throw it in the air in the sight of Pharaoh. It shall become the fine dust all over the land of Egypt, and shall cause festering boils on humans and animals throughout the whole land of Egypt." So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses threw it in the air, and it caused festering boils on humans and animals. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils afflicted the magicians as well as all of the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he would not listen to them, just as the Lord had spoken to Moses. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Rise up early in the morning and present yourself before Pharaoh, and say to him, 'Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, let my people go so that they may worship me. For this time I will send all my plagues upon you yourself, and upon your officials, and upon your people, so that you may know that there is no one like me on all the earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But this is why I have let you live, to show you my power, and to make my name resound throughout all the earth. You are still exalting yourself against my people, and will not let them go. Tomorrow at this time I will cause the heaviest hail to fall that has ever fallen in Egypt, from the day it was founded until now. Send, therefore, and have your livestock and everything that you have in the open field brought to a secure place. Every human or animal that is in the open field and is not brought under shelter will die when the hail comes down upon them." Those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried their slaves and livestock off to a secure place. Those who did not regard the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the open field. The Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward heaven so that hail may fall on the whole land of Egypt, on animals and humans and all the plants of the field in the land of Egypt." Then Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire came down in the earth, and the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. There was hail with fire flashing continually in the midst of it, such heavy hail as had never fallen in all the land of Egypt since it had become a nation. The hail struck down everything that was in the open field throughout all the land of Egypt, both human and animal, and hail struck down all the plants of the field and shattered every tree in the field. Only the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said to them, "This time I have sinned. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to the Lord. Enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go. You need stay no longer." Moses said to him, As soon as I have gone out of the city, I will stretch out my hands to the Lord, and the thunder will cease. There will be no more hail, so that you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But as for you and your officials, I know that you do not yet fear the Lord God." Now the flax and the barley were ruined, for the barley was in the ear and the flax was in the bud. But the wheat and the spelt were not ruined, for they are late in coming up. So Moses left Pharaoh, went out of the city, and stretched out his hand to the Lord. Then the thunder and the hail ceased, and the rain no longer poured down on the earth. But when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunder had ceased, he sinned once more and hardened his heart, he and his officials. So the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had spoken through Moses.
I think God's just looking for an excuse to smite the people of Egypt, because he's saying, "I'm going to do this to prove, to Pharaoh that you're really my prophet." But then he hardens the Pharaoh's heart, and
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
he's just trying to, he just wants to have fun.
He's flexing.
Yeah.
I think, at one point in here he said, "I will prove that I am the greatest in all the earth."
Verse 14. If you're looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that you may know that there is no one like me in all the earth. Third group of three marvels. Moses' outstretched hand is now the instrument, and the severity of the calamities escalates. The seventh marvel is hail, God of the Hebrews. Only here is plagues used for one of the first 9 calamities. perhaps because of the extensive loss of human life. Oh, it also mentions tomorrow. I meant to bring that up also when Moses asked the Pharaoh earlier, "When do you want me to stop the gnats or the flies or whichever plague it was?" And he said tomorrow. Like, what? Why would you say tomorrow? Why not say right now? Fucking do it immediately. All right. Chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of the officials in order that I may show these signs of mine among them, just as we were just talking. And that you may tell your children and grandchildren how I have made fools of the Egyptians and what signs I have done among them, so that you may know that I am the Lord." So yeah, he's literally just flexing. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, "Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. For if you refuse to let my people go, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country. They shall cover the surface of the land so that no one will be able to see the land. They shall devour the last remnant left you after the hail, and they shall devour every tree of yours that grows in the field. They shall fill your houses and the houses of all your officials and of all the Egyptians, something that neither your parents nor your grandparents have seen. From the day they came on earth to this day." Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials said to him, "How long shall this fellow be a snare to us? Let the people go so that they may worship the Lord their God. Do you not understand that Egypt is ruined?" So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said, "Go worship the Lord your God, but which ones are to go?" Moses said, "We will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and our daughters, and with our flocks and our herds, because we have the Lord's festival to celebrate." He said to them, "The Lord indeed will be with you. If ever I let your little ones go with you, plainly you have evil purpose in your mind. No, never. Your men may go and worship the Lord, for that is what you are asking." And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt so that the locusts may come upon it and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left." So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When morning came, the east wind had brought the locusts. The locusts came upon all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt, such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been before, nor ever shall be again. They covered the surface of the whole land so that the land was black, and they ate all the plants in the land and all the fruit of the trees that all the hail had left. Nothing green was left, no tree, no plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurriedly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Do forgive my sin just this once, and pray to the Lord your God that at least he remove this deadly thing from me." So he went out from Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. The Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let the Israelites go. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward the heaven, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, the darkness that can be felt." So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was a dense darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. People could not see one another, and for 3 days they could not move from where they were, but all the Israelites had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "Go worship the Lord. Only your flocks and your herds shall remain behind. Even your children may go with you." But Moses said, "You must let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings to sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock must also go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must choose some of them for the worship of the Lord our God. And we will not know what to use to worship the Lord until we arrive there." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was unwilling to let them go. Then Pharaoh said to him, "Get away from me. Take care that you do not see my face again. For on the day you see my face you shall die." Moses said, "Just as you say, I will never again see your face."
God's like taunting Pharaoh. Pharaoh's trying to be a good guy, or he's trying to change his ways and let him do what he wants, but God's like, nah, he keeps
Hardening
making him change
heart.
his mind.
Yeah.
He's just playing with him.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. God hardened the hearts. See chapter 4:21 notes. Damn, I have to go all the way back there to see the hardened hearts notes. 4:21. The motif of the Pharaoh's hardened heart appears frequently in the narrative of Moses' negotiations with the Egyptian ruler, serving to increase dramatic tension. The number 10 plays a role. 10 times the Pharaoh's heart is hardened. 10 times the Pharaoh hardens his own heart. Chapter 18, verse 15. Although even then it is part of God's plan. Chapter 7, 3, and chapter 11, 9. And 10 times God hardens it directly. Interesting. So it's hardened 20 times overall, but 10 times he does it himself and 10 times God does it.
Interesting.
Locusts are extremely damaging. They reflect disaster. See Joel chapter 1 and 2 and divine judgment.
It's funny that it stopped talking about the magicians
Yeah.
doing the same acts. Like they just gave up. They're like, we can do those things, but we're not gonna.
Yeah. The ninth marvel is darkness. Perhaps reflecting the thick air of Near Eastern sandstorms, darkness anticipates the midnight setting of the climactic death of the firstborn and the nighttime sea crossing. We're about to hit chapter 11, which is the plague, commemorative rituals, and departure. After the firstborn plague is announced, detailed commands for commemorative rituals appear interspersed with accounts of Egyptian deaths and the Israelite exodus. Although addressed to the Israelites as they leave Egypt, the directives for various rituals also mandate future behaviors that will commemorate the radical change from servitude to freedom through God's intervention. The miraculous departure from Egypt becomes part of the collective memory of future generations, kept alive through religious practices that enable later generations to recall and relive the experiences. The rituals will contribute to Israelite communal identity and help maintain community values. Interesting. So I guess this is about to be Passover, right? We gotta be getting close to that.
I'm gonna go blow my nose and get some water real quick.
Alright, I'm gonna use the restroom while you're gone. You back already too?
Yep.
Alrighty. Alright, so chapter 11. Announcement of the plague. Plague is now the appropriate term for the horrific loss of life that ensues. The Israelite women would require Egyptian goods is announced in chapter 3. Here, men too will obtain jewelry, but the clothing of chapter 3 is omitted, as is the involvement of children. Verse 5, firstborn, Pharaoh, female slave, opposite ends of the socioeconomic spectrum from a merism indicating that all Egyptians will be affected. The Egyptians' unique loud cry surpasses the Israelites' cry from chapter 2. Alright, chapter 11, let's do it. Mass murder. The Lord said to Moses, I will bring one more plague upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go from here. Indeed, when he lets you go, he will drive you away. I've gone and pissed him off for you. Tell the people that every man is to ask his neighbor, and every woman is to ask her neighbor for objects of silver and gold. The Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, Moses was a man of great importance in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's officials and in the sight of the people. Moses said, Thus says the Lord, about midnight I will go out through Egypt. Every firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sits in his throne to the firstborn of the female slave who is behind the handmill, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Then there will be a loud cry throughout the whole land of Egypt, such has never been or will ever be again. But not a dog shall growl at any of the Israelites, not at people, not at animals, so that you may know that the Lord makes a distinction between Egypt and Israel. Then all these officials of yours shall come down to me and bow low to me, saying, Leave us, you and all your people who follow you. After that I will leave. And in hot anger he left Pharaoh. The Lord said to Moses, Pharaoh will not listen to you, in order that my wonders will be multiplied in the land of Egypt. Moses and Aaron performed all these wonders before Pharaoh, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people of Israel go out of this land. So he's just saying it, I guess, now. He's not actually doing it yet. Chapter 12. Preparations for departure. Passover and the unleavened bread festivals. Here in verses 43 to 49 and in chapter 13, God ordains what will become a major Israelite festival, seen in Deuteronomy, Numbers, Kings, and Ezekiel. Agricultural and pastoral components of the Canaanite ritual calendar, springtime birth of lambs, growth of green herbs, and ripening of grains are given antecedents in Israel's story. Linked to Exodus, the heightened emotions of such celebrations help recreate for later generations the exultant experience of liberation. This historicization of festivals contributes to the enduring nature. Verse 1 to 13 is Passover. March to April, called Aviv in 13:4, is later called Nisan in Nehemiah and Esther. So this is, I guess, the spring festival, and then they'll also have an autumn festival of the new year. All right, let's do Passover. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, This month shall mark for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell the whole congregation of Israel that on the 10th of this month they are to take a lamb for each family, a lamb for each household. If a household is too small for a whole lamb, it shall join its closest neighbor in obtaining one. The lamb shall be divided in proportion to the number of people who eat of it. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a year-old male. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of this month, when the whole assembled congregation of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight. They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts of the lintel in the houses on which they eat it. They shall eat the lamb at the same night, That same night they shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted over a fire, with its head, legs, and inner organs. You shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. This is how you shall eat it: your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is the Passover of the Lord. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human beings and animals. On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you live. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be a day of remembrance for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord. Throughout your generations you shall observe it in perpetual ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses, for whoever eats leavened bread on the first day until the 7th day shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day you shall hold a solemn assembly, and on the 7th day a solemn assembly. No work shall be done on those days. Only what everyone must eat, that alone may be prepared by you. You shall observe the festival of unleavened bread, for on this day I brought you companies out of the land of Egypt. You shall observe this day throughout your generations as a perpetual ordinance. In the first month, from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day, you shall eat unleavened bread. For 7 days no leaven shall be found in your houses, for whoever eat what is leavened shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether an alien or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all of your settlements you shall eat unleavened bread. Good God, can we get over the leavened stuff?
What is leaven and leavened bread? Do you know?
I'm going to guess whatever makes it puff up, like...
Oh, yeast?
I guess, yeah, because if you just make bread without yeast, it's the flat wafers, like communion, right? I think that's unleavened.
So they're not allowed to eat. Okay, I guess that makes sense. That's kind of weird, though. They're not allowed to eat raised bread. They can't have any yeast or anything in their houses.
Yeah, I'll look it up actually just to verify. We normally think of yeast as a leavening agent, but there are many such ingredients that can be used, such as baking powder or soda. So yeah, it's yeast, basically, but they can't use anything else to do it. Then Moses called all the elders of Israel and said to them, "Go select lambs for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and touch the lintel and the two doorposts with the blood in the basin. None of you shall go outside the door of your house until morning, for the Lord will pass through to strike down the Egyptians. When he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to enter your houses to strike you down. You shall observe this rite as a perpetual ordinance for you and your children. When you come to the land that the Lord will give you as he has promised you, you shall keep this observance. And when your children ask you, 'What do you mean by this observance?' you shall say, 'It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord. For he passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt when he struck down the Egyptians, but spared our houses.' And the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites went and did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron." Sorry, this is a long chapter. Gotta take a little bit of a break.
You're good.
At midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on his throne to the firstborn prisoner who was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh arose in the night, he and all his officials and all the Egyptians, and there was a loud cry in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. Then he summoned Moses and Aaron in the night and said, Rise up, go away from my people, both you and the Israelites. Go, worship the Lord as you said. Take your flocks and your herds, as you said, and be gone. And bring a blessing on me too. The Egyptians urged the people as they hastened their departure from the land, for they said, "We shall all be dead." So the people took their dough before it was leavened with their kneading bowls wrapped up in their cloaks and their shoulders. The Israelites had done as Moses told them. They had asked the Egyptians for jewelry of silver and gold and for clothing, and the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have what they asked, and so they plundered the Egyptians. The Israelites journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides children. A mixed crowd went up with them, and livestock in great numbers, both flocks and herds. They baked unleavened cakes of the dough that they had brought out of Egypt. It was not leavened, because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. The time that the Israelites had lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the companies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. For was the Lord a night of vigil to bring them out of the land of Egypt. That same night is a vigil to be kept for the Lord by all the Israelites throughout their generations. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "This is the ordinance for the Passover. No foreigner shall eat it. But any slave who has been purchased may eat of it after he has been circumcised. No bound or hired servant may eat of it. It shall be eaten in one house. You shall not take any of the animal outside the house, and you shall not break any of its bones. The whole congregation of Israel shall celebrate it. If an alien resides with you, wants to celebrate the Passover to the Lord, all his males must be circumcised. Then he may draw near to celebrate it. He shall be regarded as a native of the land. But no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. There shall be one law for the native and for the alien who resides among you." All the Israelites did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. That very day the Lord brought the Israelites out of Egypt, company by company.
God is such a weird man.
Yeah. I noticed here also that, I don't know, in verses like 17 or something, we talked about all the unleavened. You can't have leavened bread. You can't have any leaven in your house. And then in verse 37 it says, or 39, they baked unleavened cakes of the dough. It was not leavened because they were driven out of Egypt and could not wait. So they didn't not leaven it because God said. They didn't leaven it because they didn't have time.
Yeah, it's a crazy history of Passover, killing everyone that doesn't. Yeah, lots of innocent people.
All right, here's a note on the unleavened bread. In Hebrew, it's matzah, which originated in an ancient spring harvest festival, is given in explanation in 34, 23, and 34. Yeah, which is, I think, 39, 34, 39. Yeah, they baked the unleavened bread, connecting it to the hasty departure of Egypt. The similar historicization of the Lamb Festival with which it is ultimately combined cut off the penalty for many serious violations of priestly law. Probably does not mean excommunication, but rather signifies dying without heirs. Oh. So
what means that?
When they said that if you invite somebody to eat Passover with you, they have to be circumcised, otherwise they'll be cut off from the land of Egypt.
Okay.
This note down here says cut off. The penalty for many serious violations of law probably does not mean excommunication, but rather signifies dying without heirs, that is, having one's lineage ended. It would thus be implemented by God, not humans. So you don't, like, they're not allowed to not hang out with you anymore, but God will make sure that they don't experience the Holy Land. It's not on you to excommunicate them, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah. Verses 21 to 28 is Passover again. Hyssop is an aromatic plant used in rituals. Commands for future observance emphasize the educational function of the Passover. Verse 29 to 50, the plague, departure, and Passover. As soon as the firstborn of the Egyptians die, the Israelites leave Egypt and are reminded to celebrate the Passover. And there's just a whole bunch about the deaths, Exodus, departing from Egypt, beginning the wilderness journey, which continues in Numbers. Each stage of the journey is marked by formulaic language, traveling from place A to place B, beginning with Ramses and Succoth in what we just read, I guess, chapter or verse 37. However, they cannot be clearly identified and may not reflect accurate or actual memories. 600,000 people is likely a hyperbole meant to reflect the proliferation of the Israelites and concept of all Israel experiencing the Exodus. So saying not that 600,000 people left Egypt, but that there were probably 600,000 Israelites throughout the world at that time, maybe. It's a curious explanation.
Yeah.
Mixed crowd suggests that non-Israelites were among those escaping. Sorry, I'm just kind of skimming these notes real quick to see if we got anything good in here.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, it says that verses 43 to 51 are specifically for future observances. So that's what we were reading about the
Circumcision and
yeah,
aliens.
and the unleavened bread, I guess. So that
Yeah.
was specifically for future instances, even though it came before the escape. A slave who is purchased and circumcised is considered part of the household. I mean, this whole era in this Bible about the slavery, I guess I have to familiarize myself with the later chapters to see, or later books, to see if there's some undoing of all of this slavery stuff, but it sure seems ordained by God at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Slavery is fine, but I swear to God, if you don't cut off the tip of your penis, you're gonna face my wrath.
Yeah, yeah, you're not going to have any heirs. That was 12, right, that we just did, or was that 13? Yeah, that was 12, okay. So 13 looks like it's going to be more festival stuff. So the Lord said to Moses, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn, whatever is the first to open the womb among the Israelites of humans, beings, animal. I'm sorry, excuse me. Whatever is the first to open the womb among the Israelites of human beings and animals is mine." Moses said to the people, "Remember this day on which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, because the Lord brought you out from there by strength of hand. No leavened bread shall be eaten. Today, in the month of Abib, you are going out. When the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which I swore to your ancestors to give you, a land flowing with milk and honey, you shall keep this observance in this month. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a festival to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten for 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen in your possession, and no leaven shall be seen among you in all your territory. You shall tell your child on that day, it is because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. It shall serve for you as a sign on your hand and as a reminder on your forehead, so that the teachings of the Lord may be on your lips, for with a strong hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. You shall keep this ordinance at this proper time from year to year. Then the Lord has brought you into the land of Canaanites, as he swore to you and your ancestors, and has given it to you. You shall set apart the Lord all that first opens the womb. All the firstborn of your livestock that are male shall be the Lord's. But every firstborn donkey you shall redeem with a sheep. If you do not redeem it, you must break its neck. Every firstborn male among your children you shall redeem. When in the future your child asks you, what does this mean? You shall say, by the strength of the hand of the Lord brought us out of Egypt from the house of slavery. When Pharaoh stubbornly refused to let us go, the Lord killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from human firstborn to the firstborn animals. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord every male that opens the womb, every male that first opens the womb, but every firstborn of my sons I redeem. It shall serve as a sign on your hand and as an emblem on your forehead, that by the strength of hand the Lord brought us out of Egypt. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was nearer, for God thought, if the people face war, they may change their minds and return to Egypt. So God led the people by the roundabout way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. The Israelites went up out of the land of Egypt prepared for battle, and Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had required a solemn oath of the Israelites, saying, God will surely take notice of you, and then you must carry my bones with you from here. They set out from Succoth and camped at Itham on the edge of the wilderness. The Lord went in front of them in a pillar of cloud by day to lead them along the way, and in a pillar of fire by night to give them light, so that they might travel by day and by night. Neither the pillar of cloud by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. All right, there we are. We're exiting.
What was the stuff about redemption? He was saying you still have to kill the firstborn of livestock, but not of your sons.
Right, yeah. So at first he said all firstborns, including humans and animals. And then he said, but your firstborn sons you shall redeem. Basically, I think he's saying they don't get sacrificed.
Okay.
And when your sons ask, why am I not being sacrificed, you say, this is a redemption from the God, or whatever he said there. But every firstborn of my sons I redeem. Let's see, do I have anything in here worth spreading?
It's funny how much they hate Levin.
Yeah. It does mention here for verse 13, because the donkey is an impure animal according to categories in Leviticus and Deuteronomy, it is redeemed by a pure one, a sheep. The procedure for redeeming the human firstborn is not specified. Alright, yeah. So we're about to get in the sea crossing. Okay. Chapter 14. Then the Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and camp in front of Pi Hahiroth, between Migdol and the sea. In front of Baal-Sivan, you shall camp opposite it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they are wandering aimlessly in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, so that I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his army, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so. God is taunting Pharaoh.
Yeah.
When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the minds of Pharaoh and his officials were changed toward the people, and they said, what have we done, letting Israel leave our service? So he and his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 picked chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt with the officers over all of them. The Lord hardened the heart of the king of Egypt, and he pursued the Israelites who were going out boldly. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots, his chariot drivers, and his army. They overtook them camped by the sea, by Pihahiroth, in front of Baal-Sivan. As Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites looked back, and there were Egyptians advancing on them. In great fear, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you had taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing you told us in Egypt? Let us alone and let us serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, Do not be afraid, stand firm, and see the deliverance that the Lord will accomplish for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to keep still. Then the Lord said to Moses, Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward. But you lift up your staff, and you stretch out your hand over the sea, and divide it, that the Israelites may go into the sea on dry ground. Then I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they will go in after them, and so I will gain glory for myself over Pharaoh and all his armies, his chariots and his chariot drivers. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I have gained glory for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots, and his chariot drivers. The angel of God who was going before the Israelite army moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud moved from in front of them and took its place behind them. It came between the army of Egypt and the army of Israel, so that the cloud was there with the darkness, and it lit up the night. One did not come near the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. The Lord drove the sea back by strong east wind all night and turned the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. The Israelites went into the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. The Egyptians pursued and went into the sea after them, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and chariot drivers. At the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire cloud looked down upon the Egyptian army and threw the Egyptian army into panic. He clogged their chariot wheels so that they turned with difficulty. The Egyptians said, Let us flee from the Israelites, for the Lord is fighting for them against Egypt. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the sea, so that the water may come back upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and chariot drivers. So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and at dawn the sea turned to its normal depth, and the Egyptians fled before it. The Lord tossed the Egyptians into the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and chariot drivers and the entire army of Pharaoh, that they had followed him into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the Israelites walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters forming a wall for them on their left and on their right. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great work that the Lord did against the Egyptians. So the people feared the Lord and believed in the Lord and his servant Moses. Basically dragged them into it. The Egyptians, I mean.
Yep. Crazy stuff.
Oh, nice. The next chapter is a song. This ought to be fun.
I'm excited.
Hopefully it's a song about killing everybody. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord. I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and my might, and he has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will praise him. My father's God, and I will exalt him. The Lord is a warrior. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army he cast into the sea. His picked officers were sunk in the Red Sea. The floods covered them. They went down into the depths like the stone. Your right hand, O Lord, glorious in power. Your right hand, O Lord, shattered the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrew your adversaries. You sent out your fury. It consumed them like stubble. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The floods stood up in a heap. The deeps congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake. I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will draw my sword, my hand shall destroy them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them. They sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your steadfast love you led the people whom you redeemed. You guided them by your strength to your holy abode. The peoples heard, they trembled. Pangs seized the inhabitants of Philistia. And the chiefs of Edom were dismayed. Trembling seized the leaders of Moab. All the inhabitants of Canaan melted away. Terror and dread fell upon them by the might of your arm. They became still as stone, until your people, O Lord, passed by, until the people whom you acquired passed by. You brought them in and planted them on the mountain of your own possession. The place, O Lord, that you made your abode, the sanctuary, O Lord, that your hands have established. The Lord will reign forever. When the horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and his chariot drivers went into the sea, the Lord brought back the waters of the sea upon them, but the Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground. Then the prophet Miriam, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and with dancing. And Miriam sang to them. Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. Then Moses ordered Israel to set out from the Red Sea, and they went into the wilderness of Shur. They went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Then they came to Marah. They could not drink the water at Marah because it was bitter. That was why they called it Marah. And the people complained against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? He cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. There the Lord made them a statute and an ordinance, and there he put them to the test. He said, If you will listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God, and do what is right in his sight, and give heed to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. Then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they camped there by the water.
Those verses 25 and 26, those almost sound like a threat. He's like, do what I want, otherwise I'm going to kill you all and let disease ravage you.
Yeah. And they're about to challenge that, right? Because I think there's a point here where Moses does something that he's not supposed to, and that's why he's not allowed to go to the Holy Land. That's why they wander in the desert for a generation.
A whole generation.
Yeah, 40 years or something.
Damn.
Because the first generation is not allowed to see the Holy Land, or not allowed to live in the Holy Land, something like that. It's coming up soon.
Okay.
So this was the first crisis, lack of water. So they complained, and that's going to come up again. The wilderness crisis can constitute a test of the Israelites and of God. And then chapter 16, we're going to have a second crisis, lack of food. Let's see, how much do we have left in this? All right, we have 40, so do we want to try to get through 20 today?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
All right, let's do it. Chapter 16. We good? Anything else for 15? That was a fun song. I need to send that to my friends. They were trying to come up with a theme song for my Bible study. Chapter 15, Song of the Sea, is a lyric victory hymn generally considered one of the oldest literary units in the Bible, perhaps from the 12th century BCE. It probably was an independent composition, not part of any other sources. Influenced by mythic accounts of a divine warrior battle with watery chaos, it is rich in metaphors and terms that preclude single explanations and at times even defy comprehension. Its general meaning would be less clear without the prose version, although in some details it diverges from that version. Oh, it says
Which chapter was that for?
chapter 15, that song we just read.
Okay.
And it says here, verse 1, although attributed to Moses, female authorship cannot be ruled out. Note that I need not be Moses. Why would that be female? Then the Israelites sang out, I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, horse and rider. I don't understand why that would be female, but okay.
Well, it said later that the wives, his wife took a tambourine, and then all the wives took tambourines and started dancing and
okay,
sang.
so it may be a first-person female singer.
Yeah.
Gotcha. The right hand of God is the vanquisher of enemy, not Moses. Among the gods is language of the Israelite existence of inferior gods. Universal monotheism emerges in the 7th or 6th century. So yeah, this probably precludes the other stories in the Bible where they were still accepting of other gods, I guess. But that's interesting that this story is completely separate. This song is not sourced in any of the sources. It's a separate song. I really like that. That probably means that that song is older than all the other stuff.
It's interesting, yeah, because it talks about. So when was this Exodus supposed to have happened?
I did like a little timeline thing, and it said about 1500 BCE. If you follow those, like you said, the 100-year-old people and 130-year-old when they had
Yeah.
so and so and such. So around 1500 BCE would be probably a good guess, maybe up to 2000 BCE. Abraham would have been 3000 BCE, is the way that I kind of did that chart. And I'm taking credit for it, but I didn't come up with that originally. That's copying from other people's charts, obviously.
Yeah.
So if this Exodus was circa 1500, they're saying this song was from 1200. So
And then the rest of Moses is like 700, 400.
yeah, all of the sources, the J, E, P, and D, the people that originally like wrote this stuff, were 700. Or 700.
Okay.
But obviously, all that intro was saying was that all of these stories are oral histories that were passed down.
That's such a long amount of time. Like even in modern day, writing about something that happened 700 years ago. Like
Yeah.
it's hard enough for us to do that and to create an accurate recounting now, and then for them to do it
Yeah, no
back
kidding.
then.
Yeah, how tempting it would be to merge stories, right? Like if you heard a similar story from someone else, how hard it would be to keep them all straight.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I find so fascinating about it is the trying to find those threads that go back so far. Like particularly to this song that they can say this predates the other stories that we're reading. As
Yeah,
far
that
as
is cool.
being put together in one cohesive story. Okay, you ready for 16?
Yep.
The whole congregation of the Israelites set out from Elim, and Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after they departed from the land of Egypt. The whole congregation of Israelites complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The Israelites said to them, "If only we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots and ate our fill of bread. For you have brought us out into this wilderness to kill us, this whole assembly, with hunger." Then the Lord said to Moses, "I am going to rain bread from the heaven for you, and each day the people shall go out and gather enough for the day. In that way I will test them, whether they will follow my instructions or not. On the 6th day they prepare what they bring in. It will be twice as much as they gather on other days." So Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you shall know that it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaining against the Lord. For what are we, that you complain against us?" And Moses said, "When the Lord gives you meat to eat in the evening, and your fill of bread in the morning, because the Lord has heard you complaining that you utter against him, what are we? Your complaining is not against us, but against the Lord." Bunch of crybabies. They were just singing their praises in the last chapter. I guess it's probably been a while. Then Moses said to Aaron, "Say to the whole congregation of the Israelites, 'Draw near to the Lord, for he has heard your complaining.'" And as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the Israelites, they looked toward the wilderness, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. The Lord spoke to Moses and said, "I have heard the complaining of the Israelites. Say to them, at twilight you shall eat meat, and in the morning you shall have your fill of bread. Then you shall know that I am the Lord your God. In the evening quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. When the layer of dew lifted, there on the surface of the wilderness was a fine, flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the Israelites saw it, they said to one another, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. Moses said to them, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat. This is what the Lord has commanded. Gather as much of it as you need, an omer to the persons according to the number of persons, all providing for those in their own tents." The Israelites did so, some gathering more, some less. But when they measured it with an omer, those who gathered much had nothing over, and those who gathered little had no shortage. They gathered as each of them needed. Moses said to them, "Let no one leave any of it over until morning." But they did not listen to Moses. Some left part of it until morning, and it bred worms and became foul. And Moses was angry with them. Morning by morning they gathered it as much as they needed, but when the sun grew hot, it melted. On the sixth day they gathered twice as much food, 2 omers apiece. When all the leaders of the congregation came and told Moses, he said to them, "This is what the Lord has commanded. Tomorrow is a day of solemn rest, a holy Sabbath to the Lord. Bake what you want to bake, and boil what you want to boil, and all that is left over put aside to be kept until morning." So they put it aside until morning, as Moses had commanded them, and it did not become foul, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, "Eat it today, for today is Sabbath to the Lord. Today you will not find it in the field. 6 days you gather it, but on the 7th, that is the Sabbath, there will be none." On the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather, and they found none. The Lord said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to keep my commandments and instructions? See, the Lord has given you the Sabbath. Therefore on the 6th day he gives you food for 2 days. Each of you stay where you are. Do not leave your place on the 7th day." So the people rested on the 7th day. The house of Israel called it manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and taste of it was like wafers made with honey. Moses said, "This is the land that the Lord has commanded. This is what the Lord has commanded. Let an omer of it be kept throughout your generations, in order that you may see the food with which I fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you out of the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take a jar and put an omer of manna in it, and place it before the Lord to be kept throughout your generations." As the Lord commanded Moses, so Aaron placed it before the covenant for safekeeping. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they came to a habitable land. They ate manna until they came to the border of the land of Canaan. An omer is a tenth of an ephah. Oh, thanks for that clarification. Uh-oh. Did I lose connection? Looks like I lost all connection. Damn it. Well, shit. Am I still live on the other things? It looks like I'm still live. Let's see what Twitch looks like. Yeah, I'm on.
You're back.
Hey, I'm here. Lucky me. Still there? All right.
Yep.
Sweet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where I lost you, but I finished out chapter 16.
I did too.
Okay, yeah, that last line was an omer is a tenth of an ephah.
Yeah, that
Thank you for
clears
that.
things up.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks for that help. All right, let's see. This is the lack of food, and they're questioning God again. I guess that's going to be the theme of this. Note 1636. An ephah is about 20 quarts, and an omer is about 2 quarts, half a gallon, usually for grain.
Okay.
Streaming this on Twitch, but I'm having issues on there too. I don't know what my streaming problems are, but we'll continue with what we got. And it says that verse 35, 40 years is the first mention of the length of the wilderness sojourn. All right,
Yeah,
chapter
that's crazy.
17 is going to be the third crisis, a lack of water. People complain again and quarrel. Yeah, and this is where they pull water out of a rock. All right. From the wilderness of sin, the whole congregation of the Israelites journeyed by stages as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." And Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you. Take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will be standing there in front of you on the rock of Horeb. Strike the rock and water will come of it, so that the people may drink." Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Those words mean test and quarrel, apparently. Then Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some men from us and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand." So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed, and whenever he lowered his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands grew weary, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, so his hands were steady until sunset. And Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this as a reminder in a book and recite it in the hearing of Joshua. I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." And Moses built an altar and called it, "And the Lord is my banner." He said, "A hand upon the banner of the Lord. The Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." So he's going to blot him out from under heaven, but then he's going to battle with him from generation to generation. Rack your brain trying to figure this stuff out, I guess.
Definitely.
Water coming from a rock at the mountain of Horeb invokes mythic imagery of a cosmic mountain, source of all water, and the divine home. Oh, I think I remember something about that in the first parts of Genesis, how water was from a spring of a stone. It was like a fountain.
Interesting.
Oh, okay. Moving on to 17. Fourth crisis is the military threat. Amalek refers to a semi-nomadic group and habitual enemy of Israel. It is not attested in non-biblical records. Moses' successor Joshua, whose name appears 7 times in Exodus, is first mentioned here. Moses' staff, presumably held in his hand, can secure military victory and produce water or make it undrinkable. Pretty special staff.
It can also turn into a snake.
Yeah, that's true. Why didn't they say that?
And eat other snakes.
Yeah. Meeting with Jethro, who solves an organizational crisis. Jethro was supposedly the father-in-law of Moses. There was one named Reuel and one named Jethro. I think they just contradict the same person, but anyway. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father-in-law Jethro took her back, along with her 2 sons. The name of the one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a foreign land, and the other was named Eliezer, for he said, God of my father was my help and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came into the wilderness where Moses was encamped at the mountain of God, bringing Moses' sons and wife to him. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Then Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had beset them on the way, and how the Lord had delivered them. Jethro rejoiced for all the good the Lord had done Israel in delivering them from the Egyptians. Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, because he delivered the people from the Egyptians, when they dealt arrogantly with them. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread and with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. The next day Moses sat as judge for the people, while the people stood around him in the morning until evening. When Moses' father-in-law saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, What is this that you are doing for these people? Why do you sit alone while all the people stand around you from morning until evening? Moses said to his father-in-law, Because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, they come to me, and I decide between one person and another. I make known to them the statutes and instructions of God. Moses' father-in-law said to him, What you are doing is not good. You will surely wear yourself out, both you and these people with you, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You shall represent the people before God, and you should bring their cases before God, each them their statutes and instructions, and make them known the way they are to go and things they are to do. You should also look for able men among all the people, men who fear God, are trustworthy, and hate dishonest gain. Set such men over them as officers, over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them sit as judges for the people at all times. Let them bring every important case to you, but decide minor cases for themselves. So it will be easier for you, and they will bear the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will go to their home in peace. So Moses listened to his father-in-law and did all that he said. Moses chose able men from all Israel and appointed them as heads over the people, as officers over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. And they judged the people at all times. Hard cases they brought to Moses, but any minor cases they decided themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went off to his own country. I guess that was establishing lords in a way. Like,
What do you mean?
Well, I guess they didn't have any hierarchy before.
Oh yeah.
Before this, and now he's setting commanders.
I hate the term God-fearing. In verse 21, he says, "Look for able men who fear God." It's just crazy the emphasis that's put on, people who fear God instead of, I don't know. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. And how people use it today. He's a good God-fearing Christian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Different perspective, I guess. But I'm with you. Yeah, it's worshiping would be better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to call this the last chapter, chapter 19, and we'll pick up on 20 next week.
Sounds good.
All right. On the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone out of the land of Egypt, on that very day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. They had journeyed from Rephidim, entered the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. Israel camped there in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the Israelites, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession of all the peoples. Indeed, the whole earth is mine, but you shall be for me a priestly kingdom and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the Israelites. So Moses came, summoned by the elders of the people, and set before them all these words that the Lord had commanded him. The people answered as one, Everything that the Lord has spoken we will do. Moses reported the words of the people to the Lord. Then the Lord said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud, in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after. And Moses told the words of the people to the Lord. The Lord said to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. Have them wash their clothes and prepare for the third day, because on the third day the Lord will come down upon Mount Sinai in sight of all the people. You shall set limits for the people all around, saying, Be careful not to go up the mountain, or to touch the edge of it. Any who shall touch the mountain shall be put to death. No hand shall touch them, but they shall be stoned or shot with arrows. Whether animal or human being, they shall not live. When the trumpet sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people. He consecrated the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, Prepare for the third day. Do not go near a woman.
What?
That wasn't a commandment that I heard.
Yeah.
On the morning of the third day there was thunder and lightning, as well as a thick cloud on the mountain, and a blast of a trumpet so loud that all the people who were in the camp trembled. Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God. They took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke, because the Lord had descended upon it in fire. The smoke went up like the smoke of a kiln, while the whole mountain shook violently. As the blast of the trumpets grew louder and louder, Moses would speak, and God would answer him in thunder. When the Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, the Lord summoned Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. Then the Lord said to Moses, Go down and warn the people, not to break through to the Lord to look, otherwise many of them will perish. Even the priests who approach the Lord must consecrate themselves, or the Lord will break out against them. Moses said to the Lord, The people are not permitted to come up to Mount Sinai, for you yourself warned us, saying, Set limits around the mountain and keep it holy. The Lord said to him, Go down and come up bringing Abraham with you. But do not let the other priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord, otherwise he will break out against them. So Moses went down to the people and told them. All right.
The Mount Sinai seems pretty similar to Mount Olympus in Greek mythology.
Yeah.
The mountain with the cloud and the smoke on the top.
Yeah. Where God comes down and speaks to everybody.
Yeah. I also like the idea of, he said, no man or animal can even touch the
Yeah.
hill, so just some random squirrel or whatever starts coming up the mountain. They're all like, well, we gotta stone it now.
My notes here say the second appearance at Sinai is a composite of traditions, at times contradictory or redundant, but at the same time conveying the mystery of this momentous theophany. Sinai Horeb is depicted as an earthly manifestation of the cosmic mountain, the axis of the mythic connection between the divine and human realms. The precise location of Sinai is uncertain. Some passages located in southern Jordan and traditional site in the southern Sinai Peninsula is unlikely. The house of Jacob is parallel to the sons of Israel. The two names are the ancestor of the 12 tribes. God's presence will render the mountain intensely holy and too dangerous for people or priests to approach. Even being at the slight remove requires purification. People, perhaps only men. Oh, okay. Yeah, it says that not being able to go near a woman is addressed to men. This seems to exclude women from experienced thephany, but see chapter 21 notes, or chapter 20 notes, which the Decalogue seems to address the adult men with its stipulations otherwise applying to all people as appropriate. However, the masculine singular sometimes represents both members of the sex. So, I guess it's not just to men. Ah. Interesting. Here there's a chart for chapter 20 is where we get the first 10 commandments. And I didn't realize that the Jewish commandments were different from the Catholic ones.
Oh, are they?
Vaguely. So,
Interesting.
Jewish tradition 20.2 I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. That's universal. That's the first commandment for all. No, 20.3 is the second one for Jewish tradition. So the first commandment is I am the Lord your God. The second commandment is you shall have no other gods. You shall make no idols, whether form, heaven above, or earth beneath. So that's all one commandment in Catholicism, but that's two different commandments in Judaism. And then 2017. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or male or female slave, or ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So that's split into two commandments in Catholicism, but in Judaism, that's all one commandment. Coveting is one, but in Judaism or in Catholicism, a house is separate from your neighbor's wife. Huh, interesting. We'll get to that next week, though. We'll save the Ten Commandments for a whole fresh take.
All right.
But anyway, what do you think? That was a pretty good one for today.
Yeah, we got through a lot.
Yeah, we got through the actual Exodus, leaving of Egypt. But you got anything from your videos that you wanted to share?
I don't think so. I missed some of the earlier Genesis studies, so I should probably read up on that and watch some videos on Genesis because I missed some of those. But
Yeah. Yeah, good shit. All right, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks for coming by and hanging out with me.
yeah, glad we could do it.
Yeah. As always, learned some new things, getting some new perspective.
Learning how good God is.
Yeah. How lost I am without him. All right, man. I'll catch you next week. Thanks again.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.